Medical Coding Fundamentals, Chapter 6, Introduction to CPT. What is CPT for? This is a current procedural terminology, 4th edition. Its purpose is to accurately describe services and to provide a way of communicating this information among providers, payers, administrators, and regulators. The structure of CPT is divided into 3 categories. Category 1, these codes describe services that are generally acceptable in the current practice of medicine and are performed by many physicians in clinical practice in multiple clinical locations. Category 2 codes are codes that are used to track performance measures. They describe components that are often performed as part of an E&M service but have no additional charge of fee. These codes consist of 4 numeric characters followed by the letter F, and it includes an acronym at the end of the code to identify the disease or clinical condition with which the measurement is associated. Category 3 codes are temporary codes used to designate emerging technologies, services, and procedures. These codes have 4 numeric characters followed by the letter T. Category 3 codes usually remain in CPT for 5 years. The sections of CPT. There are 6 main sections of CPT. They are evaluation and management, anesthesia, surgery, radiology, pathology, and medicine. Guidelines for each of these sections are found in the first few pages of each section of the CPT manual. Our code formats. There is an indented code structure. There's an example. 27560 is closed treatment for a patellar dislocations without anesthesia. But the next code, 27562, you see how it's indented in? That means it goes off of the first definition plus some. So this one would be the same as the first one, the 60, only it requires anesthesia. These are the initial descriptors are the same, but the elements are not repeated in each code. Symbols. There are several symbols that are used in CPT. Your bullet indicates that there is a new procedure. This procedure was not included in the previous year's CPT manual. Your triangle designates that code descriptors have been substantially altered. Your facing triangles indicate new and revised text such as parenthetical notes and guidelines. A plus sign means this is an add-on code. It cannot stand by itself but must be used with another code. Your 0 with a slash through it, it designates codes that are exempt from the use of modifier 51 but are not add-on codes. Your lightning bolt designates vaccine codes pending approval from the FDA. And the number sign designates a code that is out of numerical sequence. Parenthetical notes. These provide specific instructions unique to those codes. Direct use of specific codes for some services, and they prohibit the use of certain code combinations. Modifiers can be found in Appendix A. They are added to a code to indicate that the procedure has been altered by special circumstances, but the code still describes the services provided. Appendix A will give you detailed description of how each modifier is to be used. Separate procedures. These are terms used in the code descriptor when the procedure described by a code is performed alone. Normally the descriptor, the service may be combined with another service as a norm, but occasionally the service may be alone, and that's when you're going to use your separate procedures. Index, again, just as in ICD, you are always going to use the alphabetic index first to identify all possible codes. There's 4 types. They are organized alphabetically by main term, procedure or service, organs or anatomical site, conditions, or synonyms, eponyms, and abbreviations. Appendices. These are sections of CPT that contain different areas of essential information for complete and accurate coding. Appendix A is going to have your modifiers and the descriptors explaining when and how to use each modifier. Appendix B is a summary of additions, deletions, and revisions that have happened since the previous year's CPT was published. Appendix C is clinical examples. I highly suggest that you check out Appendix C. It'll give you a good idea of what to really expect, the type of documentation you will have, the rationale behind picking certain codes. Appendix D is a summary of add-on codes. And Appendix E is a summary of codes that are exempt from Modifier 51. Additional information. Introductory pages. These are at the beginning of the book. They will have a list of your place of service codes. Your front and back covers will contain some commonly used symbols, and most of your modifiers will be listed there on the front cover. The back cover will have your common abbreviations. Okay, your homework for this week is to complete using terminology and checking understanding at the end of the chapter for Chapter 6. You will also need to read Chapter 8 and 9 for next week. I will be discussing Chapter 7 in the next PowerPoint. You will also need to be doing using terminology and checking your understanding for Chapter 7.